This podcast deals with themes, languages, and situations that may not be suitable for young audiences. If you're under the age of 18, parental guidance isn't going to help you here. And welcome to Now Open the Podcast, the sex education podcast that's more sex than education. I'm Trisha.
I am Jobim.
And I'm Camila Cabello. I'm Dora. Hi, guys.
So tonight's episode is about long-distance relationships. But before we get to that, we'd like to thank our partner for this episode, Ilya. Ilya, come and play.
And now, the newsstand. A Japanese man has been accused of dating 35 women at the same time to get hundreds of pounds, well, that's British pounds, worth of birthday presents. Takashi Miyagawa, 39 years old, allegedly gave different dates for his birthday to each of his potential partners after claiming he wanted a serious relationship. He's said to have received cards and presents totaling 100,000 yen, or 668 pounds, including a 2,000-pound suit. I don't know what that is in pesos. You'll have to convert it. I'm horrible at math. The women eventually realized his scam and formed a victims association. Holy crap. They had to form an association.
He literally has the League of Evil Exes. Well,
Exactly.
He's the evil one. Sorry.
He's the evil one. Right. It's a twist on, yeah. February. He has now been arrested on suspicion of fraud. So it's apparently illegal what he was doing, not just playing with people's emotions. It is alleged that Miyagawa told a 47-year-old woman that his birthday was on February 22. A 40-year-old woman that it was in July, and a 35-year-old woman that it was in April. However, his real birthday is believed to be November 13th. Local news sites reported that Miyagawa met the women while working for a marketing company selling, get this, shower heads and other products. So like the audience is built in. You know these women are lonely, they're looking for some stimulation, and he's like, that's where I come in. One woman told MBS News that he kissed her on the second date, and she added, I told him, I don't want to do that unless you are someone who wants to get married and really want to be with me in the future. And he responded in true fuckboy fashion, I'm serious. I'm going to be with you for the rest of my life. Photographs published by the network show Miyagawa with several different women at restaurants and at a park. In one image, 2 small cakes can be seen with a message, happy birthday. And that was the newsstand, now sitting down.
What a grift. That was incredible. Well, if you're listening live and like what you hear, you can join the discussion by leaving a comment below. And if we have time, we'll get to them as the show goes on. But if you're listening on Spotify or just want to join in on the conversation elsewhere, you can join the Discord community where you'll be free to talk about anything and everything sexuality with like-minded people. Respectfully, of course. So I'll drop the link to the Discord in the comments, and you can also find it in the show notes or episode description wherever you're listening. So joining us tonight for tonight's really fun episode is we have a special treat for all the customers joining. We have Chi, my girlfriend, who has been in 2 long-distance relationships. Everyone say welcome to Chi, who will be a disembodied voice.
Hi, Chi.
Can you guys hear me?
There you
she's
are.
a cat.
Hey, guys.
She is a cat.
I'm a cat.
Hi, Chi. You look very surprised to be here. Thank you for joining
you.
us on tonight's episode.
Of course.
So, like, you have 2 long distance relationships under your belt. I'm assuming not with your current girlfriend.
Not that I know of, no.
Yeah, no. So you were the experience. You were the authority on tonight's topic.
Cool, yeah. This is actually my relationship with Trisha is my first non-LDR. So I've only been in like 3 total relationships, and my past 2 have been both LDR. Yeah.
So maybe we can start by really defining what an LDR is. So based on your experience, Chi, we had a comment here earlier from Nick who said, kapag taga-QC siya at taga-alabang ako, LDR pa rin yan, no?
I mean,
So is this an LDR?
the scale of that for me, no, because the last two LDRs I was in was two different countries. It spanned like
Right.
three different countries.
I don't know though. Like,
But I guess it could be. It could be.
in the Philippines, depending on how much money you have to spend,
Yeah.
that a short distance, like from the north to Alabang, might as well be in another country because you have to pay toll, and I mean it takes what hours out of your life
True,
just
man,
to visit
yeah.
that person. It is such a slog to see a person if you were living on opposite ends of the greater Metro Manila area. So I mean, I used to live in Caloocan, all right, and I mean the deep north, near the
The deep north.
what's the last fucking station on the LRT?
Balintawak.
Balintawak, further up north than that. Okay, and I used to date a girl who was from Alabang. I consider that kind of an LDR, yeah. Especially since you had to pay toll every time to and from going to see her.
Yeah, I get that. But what about you, Chi? Like, do you think this is an LDR? Do you think it gives it justice?
I mean, I would define LDR. This is just like, my definition of it is if you can't just casually mosey on down and see your partner. Like, you can't just be like, hey, you want to meet for coffee tomorrow or something like that, or whatever. You have to like plan it, really plan it. Like, if it's a dinner, let's have dinner, right? If it's QC in Alabang, it's like, oh shit, okay. To have dinner, we have to set a schedule. How many days ahead of time? We gotta be like, oh shit, where do we go? And like, oh, let me just like kind of pencil you into my schedule. There's like a lot of planning that goes into it, So yeah, I guess it could be. But if you're rich, then I guess you can just see each other whenever, right?
Can you tell us a little bit more about the two relationships that you were in?
Right,
were
sure.
you? Where were they living? Where were you living? And how long did the relationship last? And I guess it's worth mentioning also when these relationships took place, because the amount of technology that was available to you at the time is also pretty important.
So the first one was with my one and only boyfriend. So we met in high school. And then when I graduated first because we were in British school. So he stayed to do his IB, right? I moved to the States to go to college. So I was in the States. I was in Long Beach, and he was here. And that was like, oh shit, how old was I? I was like fucking 16, dude. I was like 16. Yeah. So I was like 16 in the States. I was like 15 years ago. And wala pang Skype. Wala pang Skype. I remember. Yeah, wala pang Skype.
Magic Jack.
What is that?
Magic Jack. Oh my
What's
god!
that?
Yeah, that's how you knew you grew up in a middle class family, because you had a fucking Magic Jack. Because your parents were too fucking cheap to call US. It was basically a way of turning your internet connection into
A telephone.
a telephone. You could call anywhere around the world.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Magic Jack.
I remember my parents had to get, I don't know what the actual name for it is, but it was like a VoIP phone, whatever that is. It's like a phone that's connected to the internet or whatever.
Okay.
So they had to get
like a
that.
Magic Jack.
Yeah. So yeah, it's probably like that. But yeah, they had to have that to call me. And if I wanted to call my boyfriend at the time, I'd have to first email me. I could email him, I guess. And there was Facebook already, so I can message him on Facebook. But the key way to call him was I would have to go to the supermarket and buy these those international calling card thing. It's like a prepaid, prepaid card. So I remember it was this yellow card. And it was like,
they were phone card.
Phone cards.
FONKARD.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So you buy maybe 60 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, whatever. So I stock up on those whenever I have money and stuff, so I can call my boyfriend at the time. And it sucked because we would have to set a time when to call each other. And then when you're in the call now, when there's 5 minutes left, you hear a voice on the phone that's like, you have 5 minutes. And I'm like, oh shit, we gotta wrap this up. It's like,
quickly, I have to come now. 5 minutes left.
But yeah,
You leave, clean up on aisle 4.
Oh man, but yeah, no, it sucks because it's like it costs a lot of money just for like that much amount of
Right. Like
audio time.
back then,
Yeah.
the technology was so well compared to now rudimentary. You might as well have
Yeah.
been living in like a Jane Austen novel.
Yeah, pretty much, dude.
I
Like,
wonder when the letter shall arrive.
Shit. But my second one was a little bit more, I guess, a little bit better technology wise, I guess. What was it? Wasn't we didn't have proper because I don't remember having a smartphone. I remember having a shitty phone, and so we didn't have mobile data. So I would only be able to talk to her if I was on my laptop at home.
Right.
So there's not like
hadn't
now.
gotten that good yet.
Yeah, because now it's like you have a relationship with somebody across the oceans and stuff, and you just have them on in your pocket the whole time, and you can talk to them anytime while you're doing stuff. But this was like, oh, I gotta go home and talk to my partner, and it's like a whole ritual, it's like a whole thing that you have to prepare for and stuff. So that's kind of a bitch. But yeah, those were the second one. After I was in the States, I moved to London. And then we met in the university there. And then we met at the last year of college, which is 3 years there. And then I had to go home. So she stayed in England because she's English. And then I went back to Manila. So the time difference was like, oh shit, what's the time difference? +8, I guess. Yeah, +8.
Get to call someone in the future.
Yeah, pretty much, man. So I could only talk to her like really super early morning, like 8 a.m. Yeah.
So how long did each one of those relationships last?
The first one's more complicated, but let's just say like 5 years.
5 years.
Wow.
And 5 years on a long distance relationship. How much of that 5 years was long distance?
The second one, I believe, because after the first year of LDR, I actually moved to England for him. Because he's British, so we went to the same college there. So after that, the last like couple of years now, we were together now in the UK.
Well, I appreciate on behalf of all Filipinos your tenacity on trying to fuck as many colonizers as humanly possible. But,
I know she's just really picking off all the whites.
Yeah.
Very.
How many
slowly.
different kinds of whites are there? All right, yeah. So yeah, the time difference, obviously the geography and the time difference are some of the biggest hurdles that you have to overcome in long distance relationships. How did you guys end up managing?
Straight up just schedules, man. Like we had schedules, or like we'd promise each other either she would wake up really, really early, like before going to work at like 8 a.m., or I would stay up until like 2 a.m. so that I can get her after work. So it's really just straight up scheduling. Like it's a bitch. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So time management, basically, really, really big part.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Making.
Yeah, we always talk about on the show how like if Kai were here, she would be like,
bureaucracy is sexy.
Sexy. Have a Google Calendar, and like it's the same way that you make time for everything else in your life. You have to make time for your relationships, and when it's an LDR, it's the same. Obviously, it's harder, but you still just have to set aside a time, however often that you need to feel, loved and loving. So whenever you set these times, just make sure to stick to it, because you want to honor the person that you're with. It's not like something you can just move constantly because partner ko lang naman. Don't take your partner for granted. Just stick to the schedule in the Google Calendar. And it already automatically generates a Google Meets link. So
I'm guessing this is more difficult to do for newer relationships. Like, let's say you met at a beach or something, and then you guys hit it off, mad sparks, crazy chemistry, and you want to keep it up for months on end, despite the fact that you only met once at a beach. I think it's harder for newer relationships to stick to this because it's the honeymoon phase. It's the spontaneity of, oh my God, I need to talk to you. I want to talk to you right now. I want to talk to you until the wee hours of the morning, which to them might be like noon. So it's easier for, I think more established relationships to be like, hey, I'm busy, because you're more realistic about each other's time and what each other's time means to yourselves. I think we tend to put the other person's time ahead of ourselves, especially when we're in your relationship. So that's something to watch out for if you guys are trying to start an LDR and you guys are new. It might be easier to take the other person's time for granted when you guys are new. But in order to make it work, you got to be sexy by managing your time right.
So, Chi, when you were in these long distance relationships, how did you keep communication with, even though there was no Skype or you only had email? What were the different ways that you stayed in touch?
Were you sending snail mail? Pigeons?
In a way, actually. So I was, cause like, when Trisha asked me to be on this podcast, I started thinking like, oh shit, what did happen during that relationship? So, me and my ex had this thing where we did have WhatsApp, we did have Messenger, but sometimes we're, busy, cause it's like 8 hours ahead here. So we actually had this like Dropbox, folder, like, how you can have a shared Dropbox
Oh
folder.
yeah.
So even now it wasn't even Google Drive. It was Dropbox back then because there was no Google Drive. So we had a shared Dropbox folder, a bunch of folders that we've named this and that, whatever. And then we would write each other letters on notepads and save it into that. So like, throughout the day I'll come home and then I'll check the folder. It's like, oh, is there like a new thing? And it's like labeled or whatever. I'll click on it and it's like something that she wrote, 4 hours ago. She's not online anymore, and I get to read that. And we had all kinds of like weird folders there. So it's like one folder for just like text stuff. We had a folder for nudes for sure.
Oh yeah.
We had like a folder for like just things that we're eating. So it's just like taking a photo of all of our foods and like putting in there. Because at the time she was in England and I'm here. So we were like sharing each other like, oh, this is the food I ate today. This is the food I ate yesterday. That kind of crap, So it was like, I don't know. It was nice. It's different from like, even though we had the ability to instant message each other, it just felt like having that notepad thing where it's delayed. It just felt a lot more meaningful because you're not waiting for a response. You're just writing. And then it's like, you kind of mean what you want to say in the writing, So I thought it was pretty cool.
It's funny, you guys implemented like a system of communication that was used by like British Navymen during the age of exploration.
Yeah, actually.
Like when they were mapping out the Antarctic, they would have these mounds that made of rocks, these cairns that they would leave letters in for the next fucking vessel that would come out like years out. They'd be like, oh, this is what happened to the last people.
Yeah. Actually, it's something that I think I forgot which like organization uses something like this system that we did unintentionally because
like
you can have emails.
Basically.
Yeah,
Lover
you can have
spies.
emails, but you can't. It's harder to keep track of like Dropbox files than an email. You know what I mean? So it was like espionage.
What about the quality of the communication that you guys were having? So you guys were from what I've gathered from people who have had long distance relationships, their interactions tend to be more meaningful because that's all the time they have, right?
Yeah.
When you're living with somebody, when you see them every day, it's easier to take small moments for granted. But when you make time, when you've made the time to set aside to talk to somebody, you have a captive audience for however long you've agreed to talk. So what was the quality of your conversations like? What was the meat and potatoes of your conversations when you were having an LDR that seemed to keep your relationship alive and healthy?
So just to go back a little bit, how we were talking about like schedule, like respect the schedule, basically, right? So even if you respect the schedule, it's actually hard sometimes depending on the time difference. Because for example, back then I used to drink a lot, so I would be drinking by like 8 p.m. Right? I'm kind of drunk now at 8 p.m. It's like I'm in that drunk energy already. At 8 p.m. here, it's lunchtime there, and she's at work. And she's like in work mode. So when she answers the phone, she's in work energy. And I'm there like shit faced, like, oh, hey babe, how's it going? So sometimes like, as I know that like sometimes, you got to keep it short, because you don't have that much time. But the energy that you have on different times of the day is different as well. So you also have to kind of make up for that, So I have to like pretend I'm not as drunk as I am. So that she doesn't get too, like, oh, talk to you later na lang. Yeah, I'm not very good at that. I've never been good at that.
What are you talking about?
I'm fine. You're drunk.
Kai has popped in. She says, hoo, I'm currently in an LDR with a now open team. We missed you, Kai. So you were talking about how you had to implement like this ancient system of letter dropping and writing.
Dropbox.
And whenever you're calling each other, even with spontaneous communications, you have to like be really understanding with each other. But like these are like really creative. I don't know, maybe it's just because I've never been in an LDR, but I feel like these are really creative ways to stay in touch, because a lot of people like off the bat think, oh, I have to sit down, we watch a movie together, maybe we have dinner. But like these are really creative ways to stay in touch. So like, what are some other ways that you connected?
Okay, so there's another thing that we used to do as well. I don't remember too much of the details in it, but my ex is a really big Lord of the Rings fan, right? So she loves fantasy. She super loves fantasy. She writes her own like stories and stuff. She's really into world building. I was kind of getting into that as well. So we also had this thing. We had a folder called world building where we were making our own like tiny world in like tidbits. So imagine it like, I don't know, I guess the closest type of fantasy would be like the Land of Oo, like in Adventure Time, where there's like a weird land for the slime and a weird land for this and that. So we had our own version of that actually, where we would just kind of like make up shit based on things that we like. All I remember from it was there was a field made of salami because I really like salami. There was also like a labyrinth style maze made of cheese. And there was a creature in there called the Manchegotor, because that's my favorite. That's my favorite cheese. So it was like stuff like that, like it's not just sharing, I guess, the conversations here and there. It's also just trying to make stuff together over distance, I guess.
Leave it to lesbians to make an imaginary world of Asti. Like,
it was all food related, man.
Like cold cuts and manchego cheese, baby. Waterfall wine right over there.
Go gay or go home.
It sucks though, because it's like if it was a long distance relationship within, for example, Southeast Asia, I would be able to play games with her, but I couldn't because the lag was too strong because she's in Europe.
So I think she raises a really good point in that, especially today, we keep on, a common theme in the show is how technology is always changing our perceptions of sex and what is possible with sex. And despite the fact that they were using ancient tech to communicate, they were doing it with high-tech means. They were doing it on a computer. So what she and her partner at the time were really good at doing were thinking outside of the box in terms of what they could do with the technology that was available. They could have very easily just made 2 accounts and communicate through those 2 accounts, but instead they decided to make it really personal and make a joint account. And that does something like psychologically, it's like you're the same person and you guys get to share a life together. So they definitely thought outside the box there. And would you say that you guys scheduled your activities that you guys did together? Do you guys ever give each other tasks to do? So like, next time I see you, you should have done this or that.
Honestly, like we just kind of went about our lives.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in a weird way, we just went about our lives, and then the note taking thing, the Dropbox thing, it felt to me personally more like a Dear Diary type of thing.
Like
So sometimes I'll just write about it, write about my day, and stuff like that. But we never really gave each other specific tasks, I guess, because I have no idea. It was just not in our culture, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, Kai says, I think the letter dropping is super cute. Creative thing my partner and I did was how before I left, my girlfriend sent over a notebook full of drawings she made of our best memories, plus letters to keep me company when I get lonely.
Oh.
Then every time the time difference gets between us, I write a letter in the notebook, which I'll be sending back to her when I'm back in Manila. Man, the gays really know how to get it done.
When I was in high school, there were a couple of things. I mean, like you wouldn't really consider them long distance relationships, but you go out to another country with your family for like a month or whatever. I had friends that did that. What they would do sometimes was, and I have no effort to do this whatsoever. It's clearly girls who are doing this because boys this age are not that thoughtful. She made different letters for her boyfriend, and then hid them in his room because he's a slob, knowing that he would never clean his room. And every time he'd miss her, she'd say, "Check under your blank." And then he'd be like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Walk over to that part of his room, and behind the chair, there's a fucking letter. And she opens it and be like,
Aw.
That's
they weren't
cute.
dated or anything. They were just like, if he misses me, there's a letter for him somewhere there.
Yeah.
Another one is, of course, the writing a letter for every day that I am gone. It's very sweet, but not sustainable. Don't try it. You'll disappoint yourself.
Maybe if they're like really short, like 50 words.
I guess. But I mean, what the point I'm trying to get to here is that quality communication is so important when it comes to long distance relationships. When you don't have all day to talk to your partner, then the limited amount of time that you do get to spend with your partner counts that much more. So, how did you make sure that the times that you spent with your partner whenever you got them were meaningful?
Well, I mean, there's a typical kind of chat where it's like, "Oh, how was your day? What'd you do?" Catch up sort of stuff. But I think so. One of the moments of what do you call it? One of the spans of time where we were in LDR, me and my more recent ex, it was over a course of a year. So for a whole year, I didn't see her. And for the first couple of months, obviously, there's a lot to talk about. Like after a while, it kind of gets a little bit stale because you're just talking about the same routine that you're talking about. So like midway towards the end of that LDR, moment, whatever, you just start talking about what you would do together. It's a little bit sad, to be honest, because it's like, oh, I can't wait to see you. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. So a lot of the conversations we had were just dreaming, I guess, and whether or not it'll actually happen is you don't know. Because when I was in the LDR with her, I wasn't even sure if I was going to see her after that year. It just so happens that I was able to visit her in her home country. But I actually didn't know. Yeah.
That's a really good point. I never really thought of that when you're in a long distance relationship, it does make sense that a lot of your conversations center around the future instead of what's currently happening. Did a lot of your conversations take place in the future tense?
Yeah, like, oh, when I see you again, we're gonna do this. But like, also we would have, because you're in an LDR. Would you stay in the LDR if you knew you were never gonna see them, or you didn't have any set time you were gonna see them? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, with us, we didn't have like a time limit to the LDR. It was like until further notice, basically. So whether or not I was gonna see her in another year, I wasn't sure. So like a lot of the things were just, hey, maybe we should make plans. We'll try to make plans or something like that. I mean, sometimes the plans are okay, sometimes they go through, sometimes they don't. So sometimes the things that we would talk about would be in the far, far future, not like next year, as in like a year from now when we're finally together, and it's like you don't even know that's gonna happen. So it's a bit sad, really.
Because the both of you guys are so focused on what is going to happen. Oftentimes, I think what happens in LDRs is that they postpone talking about the elephant in the room instead of addressing whatever is really happening, because it's a double-edged sword. Because your time is so limited, you don't want to spend that time fighting. You don't want to spend that time airing out your dirty laundry. So I'm assuming it's that much harder to resolve conflict and talk about your issues in an LDR. How do you guys ensure that I only get to talk to you once a week, but I have a problem, and this needs to we need to talk about this. How do you go about letting the other person know that I don't mean to waste your time with important shit, but we need to talk about this.
Yeah. I mean, in a way, it is a little bit harder because you feel guilty bringing up a fight because you only have so much time and blah, 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 that sort of stuff. But because of modern technology, you can talk later. You can talk tomorrow. So it's okay, I guess. But at least with the context of my ex and I, we did fight a lot, actually. We did fight a lot, but we also made up a lot and very fast. I don't know if that's an LDR thing or if that was just us or if that's maybe a lesbian thing. I have no idea. But, fights go in the same ways, but I guess it's easier as well because after a fight, you get to do your routine. You get to see your friends. You get to do your thing. You're never stuck with them afterwards, which is what a lot of couples kind of gravitate towards too. So it's like, I can't resolve this because there's no space. But here you have like, we had like, you know, two
Space.
continents. We had two continents of space between us. So, all the take all the space you want, basically. But you resolve it in the same ways that you would in a normal relationship. You sit down and be like, oh, let's talk about this now. Let's try to resolve it. Whatever.
A really interesting point about how you can, when you're in an LDR, you get to walk away, which is a privilege that not a lot of people have in relationships where their partner is physically there. How do you ensure that, because you are able to walk away at any given time, so is your partner, how do you ensure that the both of you are securely attached in your relationship and not just because it can be so easy to get dismissive after a while. Be like, what, we're fighting. I'll wait for this fight to be over. I'm going to get off the phone in an hour anyway. Then I get to fucking live my life where I don't have to deal with you. So I'll be agreeable.
Or the inverse, where you get like really anxious, like, oh my God, what are they doing? Are they going to break up with me? Are they fucking somebody else? How do you quell those voices?
Well, the heart-wrenching part about like having a fight over LDR is that you can hang up the phone. You can ghost. You have the choice to ghost, basically. I mean, like, you kind of trust your partner into like not ghosting you. But let's say I'm having a fight right now over the phone. It's different from like if we had a fight in real life, because if you slam the door in my face, it's kind of a dick move. But you shut the call down, and then you, like, I don't know, temporarily block the account for a bit or something like that. Then voila, like, you just feel kind of hopeless about it because I can't even. You're 2 continents away. You can't reach them. I think it's all just the basis of you just have to trust them that they'll come back and call you again and resolve this, because technically they can just be out and then wala na.
Oh man, I've never experienced an LDR, so this is all super news to me. How about you, Dora? Have you ever been in an LDR?
I have never been in an LDR. I don't think I'm gonna get in an LDR. I don't want to be in an LDR.
Honestly, I never want to be in an LDR ever again. I never want to do that again. Man.
It looks like a lot of work. Yeah,
it is.
And I'm not a texter. I don't like schedules. It's all the things you're saying that are needed to be in an LDR. I don't have those.
We have the anti-Kai present on the show tonight. The exact polar opposite. We have a Mark. We have a listener. A customer, Mark Clayton, who says, I am currently in a relationship with 3 women. We're all in different cities. My wife and 2 girlfriends. I think it's very different being in multiple. What does ECNM mean?
Ethical, consensual, non-monogamous.
Thank you, Trisha. Relationships that are monogamous.
It was European Competence Network on Mastocytosis. I thought that was ECNM.
Is that real? Did you just make that up on
not
the
the anti-Kai. Maybe they have something in common. In my 15 years living in an ECNM life, I have many experiences having LDR relationships. Well, now this guy's just bragging, but thank you so much for waiting in. I respect the hustle, my friend. What I find curious about this is that he lives in a different city as his wife.
Yeah.
So it's not just he lives in he could be an OFW or something, but he doesn't even live with his wife. So this dude knows what he's talking about. Mark, if you want to weigh in more on our conversation tonight, please feel free.
Yes.
All right.
So one of the really big questions a lot of people have when they're about to start an LDR or they're already in one is, how do we maintain sexual intimacy when I literally cannot touch you? Obviously there's video chat, but there's a lag. Like, what are some of the ways that you can right? We've all been there, like hanging in a very awkward, vulnerable position when it lags. So how do you maintain intimacy from thousands of miles away when you might not even be in the same time zone? It might be breakfast for one of y'all. How do you do that?
Straight up, just nudes, man. Straight up nudes, like all kinds of nudes, like in every angle, every position, everywhere, in different places, all the time. My ex was never really big on like phone sex, so she thought it was. I pitched it to her. I did pitch it to her, but she felt really awkward about it. So you're like, okay, yeah, we don't have to do that. But like I said, in the Dropbox, we did have a folder that just says nudes, and we would regularly like put nudes in there. And then sometimes some of the notes would be like directly addressing those nudes. It's like, oh wow, he looks super hot. Can you wear that one thing again? That kind of stuff. So yeah, it's a bit. I don't know how a bit. I don't know. It's just a bit. When I think about it, it's just a bit sad because all I did was like kind of jack off to those photos, and then that was it.
I don't know, man. Sometimes I prefer that.
I would to the nude folders even if I wasn't in an LDR.
Actually, that's just a pro tip for all relationships. Have a nude folder.
Have a folder.
Regardless of time.
Always be sending each other nudes. Never stop sending each other nudes. Nothing will make your partner happier than receiving a random nude in the middle of the day in some random bathroom stall. It's
Absolutely.
the best. So yeah.
But how about you both? Like maybe not necessarily LDRs, but have you ever nurtured a sexual relationship over texts or pictures or video?
Oh fuck yeah! I did all that shit before I ever had sex.
Same.
I had phone sex. I sent nudes. I received nudes before I ever even, put my penis in somebody. So. Yeah, but then again, that was the technology that was that I was limited to back then. Since then, video call is the thing.
And now there's some like really wild sex toys that you can like sync up to each other.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So when you fuck one, the other person gets fucked by the linked up dildo. I mean, there have been some weird security concerns about people hacking in and controlling it.
Oh no! A random person is going to pleasure me. Fuck! How tragic! I'm going to get touched by some stranger. I can think of worse things, honestly.
One time, babe. Remember when I went to Singapore for like a weekend for work, and then we had the. Do you mind sharing it?
Of course, but you tell us.
It was I don't know what you call it. What's it called?
The Wii Vibe?
The blue one, yeah.
Yeah, the Wii Vibe sync.
Yeah, the blue one. So I went to Singapore for work, like for like a weekend, and then you had it, but I had the app on me.
Oh,
and I was controlling it. Yeah, I was controlling it from Singapore to the Philippines. So that's pretty cool.
Anyone on either side could have had.
Yeah, and you can even add like we were playing with the app features, and there was a feature to add like a song. And then based on the sound waves of the song, it would change the vibration pattern.
Technology is crazy now.
Technology, man. That's crazy.
Well, before we move on to the rest of the discussion, let's listen to a clip from Coates, a young superstar whose sound is a fun mix of Broadway and pop music. This is Big Shot.
Why did you get so shy? Well, last you were so bold when you told me she'd replace me. Guess luck would have me leave that spot. Big shot. High on fame, you're mixing with this cooler crowd.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Awesome.
Very cool.
So
I have dog
tonight's
hair in my mouth.
How did that happen? Do you have a dog? Is that why? Because
I don't even have a dog.
Because that would be incredible. So tonight's episode was developed in partnership with Ilya, who offers a wide range of the most cutting-edge Wi-Fi compatible technology on the market today, so you can diddle your loved ones from anywhere in the world.
Ilya offers products from 3 of the top manufacturers of high-end pleasure devices like Svacom. The Svacom Neo Ella is a beautifully crafted egg vibrator with 10+1 bonus vibration modes for a wide selection of pleasure at your very fingertips. For the more penis-oriented, Ilya also offers the Svacom Neo Alex, which has an ultra-soft thermoplastic elastomer sleeve that is made to fit all kinds of beautiful penises, and its spiral shape allows you to adjust the pressure. When we say these devices are smart, we mean the Neo Alex comes with 7 thrusting modes and 5 scenarios that help replicate the pace and pump of 5 different fantasy situations. Talk about interactive.
I'm looking at their shop right now.
So from the exclusive Love Ends line of products, we have the Lush 3, Ambi, Aussie 2, and Fairy for the very best indiscreet vaginal, clitoral, and spiritual stimulation. Each of these devices is good to go whenever or wherever thanks to Love Ends' proprietary application that allows you to pleasure your partner or yourself with just your phone and your vibrator. And that's not all. The Nora and Max 2 devices that Trisha was talking about earlier can be programmed to sync their movements to one another, providing an unparalleled interactive virtual sex-perience. For penis enthusiasts, the fully programmable Andiamo is a discreet but deceptively powerful cock ring for earth-shaking orgasms on the go.
Last but not least, Ilya also offers the Curvy 2 Plus from the good folks at Satisfyer. My favorite brand, personally. What can be said about this clit-sucking orgasm factory that hasn't already been said before multiple times on the show? These things fly off the shelves when people blink, so order yours today and buy a mop while you're at it, because you're gonna need it. Thanks again to Ilya for supporting this episode. Ilya, come and play.
Look, I'm pretty sure that the Ilya guys are tuned in right now, and I just want to say, if you could, I love your slogan. I love your slogan, which is Ilya, come and play. I think it's brilliant. I think it's marvelous. But I want to sign a petition. What is it? One of those like online petitions you can have people sign it. And people sign it. Yeah, change.org. I want to sign a change.org petition to change the Ilya slogan from "come and play" to "Ilya, go fuck yourself." Yeah, I think it's the attitude of Ilya. It's very in your face. It's very sex positive, and it's sex with your favorite person. It's Ilya, go fuck yourself. Anyway, if you like what you hear and you want to support your beloved sexual delinquents, you can send us money like the whores we are. For less than the price of one bougie cup of coffee per month, you can keep your favorite sex podcast up and running for many episodes to come. It comes with a lot of goodies like extra content, special shout-outs, and exclusive access to a VIP customer channel on Discord. You can even send us an episode. It helps us a lot, and we really appreciate it. And now, back to the discussion.
So before the break, we were talking about what really makes an LDR work. Let's do a total 180, and let's talk about what breaks an LDR, what makes it a garbage fire. So you don't have to get too personal here, Chi. You don't have to give too many details, but do you have an experience you want to share about the LDR just really coming between you?
I mean, it's like existing problems that we already had when we weren't LDR. So I can't speak for the people who started the relationship as an LDR, because me and my ex started as we were together for like a year and a half, and then I left. So we already had that nice basis. And even before that, we were already friends for like 3 years. So we had a really, really nice base for our relationship as lovers and as friends, right? So a lot of the problems we had when we were physically together carried on into the LDR, basically. And I don't know, it would manifest in different ways. Like parang sometimes we will be talking and then one of us would only be into the conversation, and it sucks because I'd be like, oh, I really want to talk to you, or whatever, or she really wants to talk to me, but I'm there like kind of marinating in my anger because I want to bring something up, but I don't want to, because like you said, Jubem, earlier, where it's like, oh, we only have so much time together. So yeah,
you want to make it count. So I guess you could say that if your relationship wasn't already solid to begin with, then it's difficult to make it. I'm sorry, I'm just reading Ilya's comment. They just replied, "How we heard you, Jubim. Definitely something to think about." Yes, nice. Ilya, go fuck yourself. Anyway, yeah. So it must be hard when your relationship is already built on a shaky foundation for you guys to try to work things out when you have less tools at your disposal.
And it's something that we weren't even used to. Like, this was her first LDR. This was my, I mean, like, my second LDR, but it was a different LDR. The first one was like calling cards. You know what I mean? So more space. This was a instant messaging phase. So more advanced,
let's say your relationship with Trisha. How long have you guys and Trisha? You guys been together now?
You can do this, babe.
What? Oh no! I was hoping you would. Damn it! 3 years. Next
All right,
month.
let's say roughly 3 years. Now that you guys have established a good bedrock for your relationship,
Yeah.
it's pretty safe to say that if you guys were to engage in a long distance relationship now, you'd fare a lot better than your past relationships.
Oh yeah. Oh for sure. I mean, like, let's say
Please don't
even
tempt fate, Joe babe.
even if even
This
if
is
I didn't have
foreshadowing.
like even if I didn't have the LDR well, I guess that helps. I can't really say that because it's in my head already. But we already have like a solid communication style that we've already built together. And we talk on chat a lot despite living next to each other. Which is kind of weird, but
Literally
like,
right
you know,
here.
she's like, yeah, she's behind the wall that I'm in. You know, I'm behind the wall that you're in that screen right now. But even so, we still chat a lot because
How much of
I don't
how
know.
much of that confidence in your relationship with Trisha in having LDR stems from you guys being secure in each other's position in each other's lives?
How much of it?
Yeah.
Quite a
Like,
bit.
how important would you say being secure in knowing where you stand in your partner's life is in having a long distance relationship?
Oh, yo, that is a must. That is a must. Like I mean, you do what you want, but you can if you have like no trust or like minimal questionable trust in your partner and you're doing an LDR, just don't do it, dude. Don't punish yourself like that because it's not gonna work. Like an LDR only really works as long as you want it to, as in both people. And if only one of you is kind of into it and the other one's, kind of meh about it, it's not gonna work out. And I say that as like, with 2 different kinds of LDRs on my belt.
And I think it makes it so much hard. Yes, for sure.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, I've never been in an LDR, but I can totally relate to like the idea of the person who's like so insecure in the relationship that they end up like really suffocating the other person or driving them away. Like that is just like my nature. I think I have like a very anxious attachment style. But one of the things I really had to learn is what she said, like the trust in your partner that even if you're thousands of miles away or not talking to me for 4 hours because you're playing Valorant, I know that, I know that I have nothing to worry about. But like that just really comes from the constant communication. Like it's really the security in the fact that if there's ever going to be a problem, if things ever change or shift even slightly, then there's going to be a conversation about it. And like I think that's really important because like when you're far away from each other, then you don't have all of those other moments. You don't have the body language as much. Like, yeah, there's video chat, but it's not exactly the same, And but when you're able to have those like raw conversations with each other, even so we can have those conversations before they snowball. Like, now I don't have to address
Yeah,
that
you can preempt
now.
it.
Yeah, it's like before
Yeah,
this becomes a
preemptive.
real problem, let's talk about it. And
Yeah.
I don't know, I think for LDRs, like the ones that don't work out are the ones who are like, nah, it's not a problem yet. Nah, well, like I don't want to waste any of our time together by talking about this. I just want to enjoy mamaya na yan. But like the more you put it off, the longer it like breeds resentment.
But I'd say you can do that same thing in a normal non-LDR relationship.
absolutely.
You can still like see each other like regularly and be like, I don't want to talk about it. It's just a
Right.
bit
It's just
more
more
amplified. It's amplified. Like
Right.
it's amplified when it's over chat or phone call. Actually, that's another thing that I think is worth bringing up. Having a phone call with someone versus chatting. It's very different.
Okay.
The way you fight.
That's true.
So,
That's true because you have
Yeah.
more time to think over chat. You have
Yeah.
more time to
And,
think
like-
about the hurtful things you want to say.
Because you can edit
No.
it out.
Yeah, you can take
You
it out.
can delete
No.
and be like, I never said that. You're
The
lying.
issue with fighting over chat is like if you're the kind of person like I think this is more like a younger person thing. You chat per line, so you
Yeah.
chat in the same kind of cadence as you would as a normal talking.
conversation.
So like no, as in like you would send it per sentence, right?
Yeah.
So hey guys, how's it going? Send. So blah 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 blah. Send. Right. So if you're that kind of person, you tend to kind of like when you verbalize. I don't know. Let's say you're having a fight. Parang you're trying to take one idea at a time. right? You try. But if you're talking to somebody, and my ex was like this, who likes to write in paragraphs, and there's like, 5 or 6 points in that massive long ass paragraph.
The novella.
How do I address
texture.
all of that? Yeah, how do I address all of that? It's like first and foremost, and then I do I go through points in it, and do I go like in conclusion? You know what I mean? It
address
becomes
your
like a
first
thesis.
There's an
Yeah.
abstract for your
Yeah,
paper.
there's like a whole thing, and it's like it's hard because that's not my communication style. So I try to adapt. Like, okay, I'm gonna also do long paragraphs, but when you do long paragraphs, but I don't know, it because you're not talking. It's not like a back and forth. It's like somebody wrote a paper and then somebody refuted that paper later down the line in the journal. And it's like, it's like, what the hell? You have to refer back to the message and like, oh, is this what they mean? And then, you make your counter argument, and it's like, oh God, it's infuriating, to be honest. Like, it's really difficult when you also don't have the same chat style, I guess.
Right. When you guys are not on the same page, basically.
Yeah.
In terms of your communication. Because it can get frustrating when you think that you're doing your best to communicate to the best of your abilities with somebody, and they're doing the same thing, and you guys are just missing the point left and right.
Yeah, it just gets lost in translation, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
So one of like the really big questions is that for a lot of people in LDR, like, what is the end goal? Like, is the end goal to one day close the gap? Can you forever sustain an LDR? Can you be an LDR like almost like permanently or semi-permanently? How do you fight till that end goal?
I mean, all the goals are different per couple, right? Some people are content with that, I guess, if it's because there are LDRs that are casual, I assume. That's a thing, right?
Yeah.
Casual
I
LDRs.
mean, why the fuck would you exert that much effort on something that is, unless the person is like the hottest piece of ass you've ever had in your entire life, and you're like, I'm never going to get this exotic genital again, then why would you bother doing a casual LDR?
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know, maybe some people are into that. Maybe they have multiple casual
Maybe you met on
LDRs, and maybe
OnlyFans.
that's the thing. Yeah, maybe,
Mark's actually weighed in a little. He says, my wife and I lived 90 minutes away from where one of my girlfriends and I lived in a house I owned. I spent 3 days with my wife at her apartment and 3 days with my girlfriend in my house and went back and forth. My wife's ex-husband moved 1,700 kilometers away and took their daughter with him. A year later, I moved my wife 30 minutes from her daughter and flew back and forth every 3 weeks. After 3 years, I moved to live with my wife 70% of the time and then flew to live with my girlfriend 30% of the time. So this is a really interesting situation because it is an open relationship. It is an ethically consensual, non-monogamous relationship. So there's always one side that is an LDR.
Yeah.
Always.
Oh, yeah.
Like even when you're with the other one is an LDR. So that's really interesting because now you have to balance 2 relationships at a time.
And Mark is ballin'.
Quite literally.
Every 3
balling and
weeks.
balling. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Unless
Wild.
I feel attacked with that one. I remembered even putting it on a document with numbers and labels so it has the points that are visible and pointed out directly.
That's good, though. I think that's a good strategy, to be honest. It sounds
Just send
weird,
the
but I
brief.
think it's a good strategy, man. Yeah, I mean,
Send the
briefing
questionnaire.
document. Our
And
objectives.
Trisha A says, I tend to like paragraphs more than putol actually. Haha. Mainly because I want to be composed and
Yeah.
careful with my words instead of coming off ranty.
Actually, that's a good one. Yeah,
Style
the
is
ranting
style.
bit. Yeah,
'Cause
but the
it's like-
ranting bit, it's like, you have to really keep yourself from ranting so much.
I
that's
personally
really hard,
dread the paragraph style because
Yeah,
nothing sinks your heart more than opening your phone to a long message from somebody you love and finding out that
And it's worth
a
5
short
scrolls.
novel. You
Yeah.
know, yeah. It has chapters. And you're like,
There's a term for that. There's a
Section
term
I
for
need
one.
that.
to
in
make
debate.
myself some cocoa.
Yeah,
Sit
there's
down
a
by
term for that.
fire to read this. What is it?
What's it called?
It's called Gish Gallop. So it's like it's technically a fallacy in debate where you overwhelm your opponent with as many points, contrasting points as possible. And because it's debate, you have X amount of time on the other team,
Mhm.
so you can't possibly address each of these points. And
It's
then you
almost like
lose.
filibustering them.
Kinda, yeah.
It's a
You just
trap.
overwhelm. Yeah, you overwhelm them with information. You're like, I can only address 2 of these, and then you
Mhm.
only address 2, and then you lose.
Yeah. And it's the
That's it.
same in fights when things are like really heightened. So I guess, but it's really interesting because everyone has a different style. Like I'm
Mhm.
personally a line by line person on a regular day, but a paragraph person when I'm upset. But I try not to make it too long because not needed. The conciseness is
I'm a
very
line by line
important.
person because I like to. I'm a very caps forward person. And for me, it just makes more sense when you type something out in caps when that's what you want to emphasize instead of me
Right.
like typing out a long paragraph. Then I'm going to turn on all caps and at this part I'm yelling out. And then this part I'm like, it just makes more sense when you're reading it.
Yeah.
to be
You gotta
line by
follow the
But, like,
line.
font hierarchy, man. There's heading
Mhm.
1, heading 2, heading 3 for that.
But because
that from
it's so
Trisha.
different between people, it's really important to, have the same expectations of each other. Like before you fight, make sure it's clear that you know how each other fights. Like, is it okay to turn off the phone and
Hmm.
disappear for 6 hours? Is that going to be your MO? And that's fine if that's what you
Yeah.
need, but you come back
Yes.
after 6 hours. Or do we address this directly? Like, you have to have a plan for how you're going to fight.
Too
Because
often
you
in
can't.
relationships, I
Go
hear
ahead.
people talk like whenever people are asking for advice from other people. That shouldn't be. That's a deal breaker. That shouldn't be allowed. And sure, I guess it could be argued there's some things across the board that should absolutely be deal breakers. Somebody lays hands on you, do not be with them. Somebody fucking cheats on you, and even then, with many people, that's a gray area, right? You can still go back to somebody who cheats on you. So, I mean, it's just a matter of being on the same page as to what either one of you will tolerate in the relationship. Don't let anybody tell you, oh, we shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't be doing that. Because if you understand what circumstances the other person is facing, and to you, given the circumstances, their behavior is acceptable, then that's up to you, man. Like, if you want to make a relationship work because you feel you can take more, then by all means, magpakamartir ka. If that's what you feel works in your relationship.
Yeah, LDR or not, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess really the key point here is like whether or not an LDR works really is up to the couple and how they handle the relationship.
It's
So
the same. It's the same as, but that's the same as non-LDR.
yeah, it's the same for pretty
Yeah,
much
it's the
every
same.
relationship.
Yeah.
There's just very different obstacles. Like
It's
there
the
are
game.
also
Yeah.
there are obstacles to living together 24/7. Nobody
Yeah.
tells you about those things, but they're constantly warning you about the difficulties of LDRs. The thing is, both are very different and very difficult in different ways.
You know, more
So,
people were warning me about like the dangers of living together more than LDR. I think because it's just
Really?
so more applicable to me. Like I've never had an LDR, and people always assume that eventually you will live with someone. So they're always telling you
Yeah,
the dangers of.
It's an
they
NDR,
al-
I guess. A no
And they
distance
also always say
relationship.
that your true colors show when you're living together already.
Absolutely, Dora. Have you ever lived with anybody?
No, just
The
myself.
opposite of an LDR.
No.
We should do that for a future episode. Cohabitation. The
oh,
opposite of an
absolutely.
Oh,
LDR.
I have a
wow,
lot
yeah.
to say about cohabitation.
Like
I've
how
learned a lot.
do your masturbation habits change when you're cohabiting? Like supposedly you won't need to masturbate as often anymore because you have somebody there, but if every once in a while you don't want to fuck your partner, how do you get over telling them that?
You
don't
text
wanna
them and
fuck
you're like,
your
I'm
partner."
masturbating, don't come in. Come in 30 minutes or ask me first.
Come in 30 minutes.
I'll be done, hopefully.
Yeah, so I think going back to LDRs, the point that was raised earlier was that so many of these things that we are discussing are applicable to normal relationships.
Hmm.
That LDRs are just normal relationships that are amplified because they have special circumstances. Right?
It
Yeah,
kind of like,
pretty much.
it holds up a 2x mirror
Right.
to your relationship.
It's kind
Right.
of like a closet relationship too, if you put it that way.
Actually,
Yes.
Actually,
Yeah,
one of our
actually.
customers said something pretty much the same way, where it's a lot of the conversations we had was just dreaming, applicable to closeted
Oh,
relationships.
there you go.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of parallels.
So I
When we're
guess
out of this place.
this is also applicable to anybody who's in a closeted relationship right now. Supposedly, this is how to get around having a relationship with somebody who you can't physically be with all the time. So, if this helps you, then we are grateful. But keep in mind that the LDR isn't really for everybody. Some people can make it work. Some people can't, despite their best intentions, and that's okay. Although I do have a question for Trisha, for Chi, and for Dora. What personalities do you think might be inclined to not work in a long distance relationship? Based on Chi, based on your experience, and Trisha and Dora, based on everything that we've heard tonight, are there personality types? Are there certain kinds of people that come to mind that might not thrive in a long distance relationship?
How about
mean-
you, Chi?
I wouldn't do it again.
Mhm.
I don't know if that's because of my personality now, but it's more less personality, but more based on experience. So I don't want to do that again because it's difficult. But if I was gonna, I don't know, like probably people who don't have a set routine, or who prefer not to have a set routine. Like you kind of go wherever the wind takes you, kind of person, where you don't know where you're gonna be, or you don't know if you're gonna be home next week, and you don't know for how long. You don't want to like commit to schedules. Then LDR is not for you because it is all scheduling.
Right. Anybody who's disorganized, I guess. And I mean,
Yeah.
it will say a lot to your partner. Disorganized people will often hear this in long distance relationships, that they're not making enough effort, because
Yeah.
the amount of time or the amount of effort that you make to make time for them is seen, directly seen by the other person. But ultimately, it is about what you guys are willing to put up. Given
How about you, Dora? What do you think are the personalities?
I think Mark said it best. I think if you're more of a control freak over your partner, I think that's what's gonna destroy it. But like, I think also if I'm gonna do LDR, I don't think I'm gonna stick to a schedule as much. Parang let's talk when we're both free, whatever time
Right.
that is. Like,
and that's why you're gonna fail at your LDR.
Yeah. If I
That's
call
the
you
thing.
at
That's the thing. You can
yeah.
because
Oh,
of
yeah.
instant messaging. You can like
You
you can just
now.
keep them in your pocket and then kind of chat with them every once in a while and just one-liners
Yeah.
here and there. Pwede.
Or parang
Yeah.
if I call you at 8, you don't pick up. That's fine. It means you're
Right,
doing
right.
something. And if he picks up, he picks up. Ganun lang.
So it's
Yeah,
chill
right?
both ways. That's
just-
where
yeah.
it might work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but if one's rigid and one's chill, I don't think it's gonna
I'm
work.
a hirap yan.
Probably
Yeah,
not.
no.
For me, I think about love languages and how it applies to the situation. I think the people at the biggest disadvantage would be people whose love languages are physical touch, because that you can't get that. I think servitude you still can, gift giving I think you still can, words of affirmation definitely, but I think people whose main love language is majority physical touch, they're going to have the hardest time dealing with it, and that's where the good folks at Ilya come in. So remember, Ilya, go fuck yourself.
All right. So that was our episode for long distance relationships. Do they actually work? I want to know, before we actually wrap up the episode, what is your number one takeaway, or alternatively, your number one advice for people setting out into a long distance relationship?
If you can't do the time, don't do the crime, dude. That's it, man. If you can't give your time on it, if you can't like sacrifice, actually that's the key word here. If you can't sacrifice like your time, but also your effort as well, maybe LDR is not for you, basically. But as long as all parties agree that, like, basically it's like as long as each party makes just like similar amounts of effort into the relationship, then it will work. So even if you suck at chatting, or you suck at calling, and you suck at scheduling, if the other party is understanding and so are you, and as long as you guys want to make it work, then it'll work. Same as normal relationships, basically. You just have to rely on technology this time.
I was actually surprised by my takeaway from the episode tonight, which was that Mark Clayton, our resident stud, I think sums it up the best. He says, what destroys an LDR relationship? The same things that destroy any relationship. And I was most surprised by that statement tonight, because I was expecting to learn so much more, like different tips and tricks about how to keep a long distance relationship alive, when really I was shocked at how it's just like every other relationship, but with different circumstances. The way you deal with it is the same. You just treat the other person with respect and you try to honor their time. It's really not that different from a physical relationship. except again, like I said earlier, it's not unless you're somebody whose main love language is touch, in which case you're pretty much fucked.
What about you, Dora? What did you take away from tonight?
That it's not for me.
That's important too.
That's very important.
Honestly,
Yeah, no.
I'm going to piggyback off of that. My takeaway is that LDRs are work in the same way that relationships without any distance, no distance relationships are work. So do the work in yourself, figure out what you're willing to tolerate, figure out what kind of relationship you want, and seek out partners who can give you that. Make sure you are with people who have the same expectations as you. Because if you already differ from those, like if you don't have the same idea of what a good relationship or an ideal relationship looks like, you're fucked whether or not you have any distance. So talk to your partner, know what you want, and seek out people who make you happy and make you feel fulfilled. Yeah, that is
Yeah.
my takeaway for tonight. So before we say goodbye, we're opening up the floor to questions from our customers. For today's opening up, we have, once again, an anonymous letter. They write, I don't know how to orgasm. Starts very strong. I don't think I've ever experienced anything like that, whether it's with my partner or with toys, and I feel so frustrated. What should I do?
Ooh, is it a male or a female?
They did not say, so
Oh.
let's just talk in broad strokes here.
Yeah, see, when you say toys, it leads me to believe that it's a woman because men just aren't generally that open to using toys, or it's not as common. I would
Fair.
lean towards it's statistically more likely that it is a woman.
Okay.
What is the question? What do I do?
What do I do? It's a very big question. You tune into our episode on masturbation next week. That's what you do. But for
absolutely.
real, though, what does this letter writer do?
I'll say right now, right here and now, I cannot mansplain this better than Trisha can because Trisha owns a vagina and she knows its inner workings and she has lived with one her entire life. I can only tell you, I can only give an answer coming from my point of view, which is, I've given some women their first orgasms, and the way I was able to do that was I put them in a headspace that they were very, very comfortable. Because their previous experiences, first and foremost, I talked to them about their previous experiences. So they were open with me. That I made sure that while I was doing something to stimulate them, that they weren't thinking about like some deep, dark secret that they had, like some skeleton in their closet. It was very important to get the communication out of the way so that I knew what could possibly be going on in their head when they were, while I was down there, because it's hard to have an orgasm if you're thinking about all the other times, all the other sexual misadventures you'd had before that. If you're thinking of all the pressure, all the times that you've tried to have an orgasm and weren't able to achieve it, then it's that much harder to achieve orgasm. So my advice would be to get yourself in a mental and emotional state where you're comfortable with not having an orgasm, not expecting an orgasm, and just get yourself to a place where you just want to have fun, where you are very, very extremely turned on, where to the point where you're so fucking aroused that you can't help but touch yourself, where if a funny wind blows, then you'll have an orgasm. You know what I mean? Like, so in a state of such extreme arousal that the pleasure isn't dependent on another human being, but from yourself. Or if it is dependent on another human being, then another human being that you have given complete trust to, someone who's not expecting anything back, that the experience is just for you, I feel takes the pressure off of people who put too much of a premium on their first orgasm, who put too much pressure on having their first orgasm. So if you practice with yourself, especially, ain't no better teacher on how to play with your genitals than yourself. So I suggest I hate to use the word meditation because it's but get yourself in a good mental space, a good emotional space, and diddle yourself until the sun comes up. No judgment.
Love the word diddle. I couldn't have said it better. How about
Yeah,
our
same.
special guest or guest host? Do you have anything you want to add?
Maybe try something new.
In addition to what Jibim said, maybe
touch yourself in things you haven't touched yourself before. Watch new porno. Yeah.
Watch new
Yeah.
porn, explore other erogenous zones, hump a
Mhm.
pillow. Honestly, if the old methods don't work,
The classics.
yeah, there's just
You've
a few
always-
go-tos that every person has, and a pillow is
Yeah.
one of them. So, I think we hopefully answered our anonymous letter writer's question. But if you still have more questions about that, and also for everyone listening, stay tuned for next week's episode on masturbation. So if you'd like to send us your anonymous questions or confessions, you can submit through our opening up form, which you can find in the comments if you're listening live, or in the episode description if you're listening on a podcast platform. So thank you so much, Dora and Chi, for joining
of
us
course.
tonight. It was thank you, especially Chi, because when we were gearing up for the show, we realized none of us had ever been in an LDR.
Oh, glad to be here.
That would have
Good
been
stuff, good
awful.
stuff. Yeah.
So, Chi, do you have anything you'd like to promote?
Well, I'm anonymous right now. I'm not showing my face, so I guess I'll just promote my cat. Look how cute he is. That's it. I'm done. It's another photo. Yeah, that's it.
To our listeners who can't see the photo right now, sorry, you'll have to check YouTube or Facebook to see this gorgeous cat.
We'd like to thank Chi for sharing her pussy with us tonight.
Of course.
Beautiful. The best pussy
It's
I've
beautiful.
ever
It's
seen
beautiful.
in person. All right. Dora, would you like to promote anything?
Just the usual stuff. Monday to Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. Magic 89.9. Fridays Mix, and Sundays on YouTube. Yeah.
Jobim.
All right. I am Jobimism on Twitter. I just want to say thank you to the people who have been like following steadily. I've been gaining maybe 2 or 3 followers every week thanks to this show. After every Tuesday, I get about 2 or 3 new followers on Twitter, and that's great because my Twitter has not grown in like 3 years because I haven't given a shit about my Twitter in 3 years. But yeah, I'm on Twitter, Jobimism, on Instagram, Jobim Javier. And I like don't listen, but I also have like a radio show on Jam 88.3. It sucks.
No time or anything. Love it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm at Trisha O'Bannon on Twitter, but you don't have to follow me as long as you follow Now Open on Facebook, where you may be watching live right now. You can also find us on YouTube, plus audio versions of the podcast on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. But don't forget to check out our coffee as well if you want some extra content. We've just uploaded new videos, and we will be uploading more in the coming weeks. So you get a bunch of cool things if you drop by the coffee. See y'all's when we
Yeah.
next open. Oh, before we go, thank you again to Ilya for partnering up with us for this episode. You guys have been bomb, and I love how they said you are starting to convince us, Jobim, with your "Go fuck yourself" tagline.
Maybe
See,
we
guys,
maybe
make noise, make change.
Go fuck yourself.
Bye.
Next week on Now
Later.
Open is masturbation, aka sex with your favorite person. See y'all's next week when we open. Bye.